Then he leaped high, caught a trailing beam of pitted and corroded metal, and went up it, hand over hand like an animal, till he was on the girdered ledge 20 feet above us. "Oh, Ted, Nimdoc, please, get him. Get him down before—" She cut off. Tears began to stand in her eyes. She moved her hands aimlessly. It was too late. None of us wanted to be near him when whatever was going to happen happened. And besides, we all saw through her concern. When Am had altered Benny during the machine's utterly irrational, hysterical phase, it was not merely Benny's face the computer had made like a giant ape's. He was big in the privates. She loved that. She serviced us as a matter of course, but she loved it from him. Oh, Ellen. Pedestal Ellen. Pristine, pure Ellen. Oh, Ellen the clean, scum, filth. Gorrister slapped her. She slumped down, staring at poor loony Benny, and she cried. It was her big defense, crying. We had gotten used to it 75 years earlier. Gorrister kicked her in the side. Then the sound began. It was light, that sound. Half sound and half light. Something began to glow from Benny's eyes and pulse with growing loudness. Dim sonorites that grew more gigantic and brighter as the light sound increased in tempo. It must have been painful, and the pain must have been increasing with the boldness of the light, the rising volume of the sound, for Benny began to mewl like a wounded animal. At first softly when the light was dim and the sound was muted, then louder as his shoulders hunched together, his back humped, as though he was trying to get away from it. His hands folded across his chest like a chipmunk's, his head tilted to the side, the sad little monkey face pinched in anguish, and then he began to howl. As the sound coming from his eyes grew louder, louder and louder, I slapped the sides of my head with my hands, but I couldn't shut it out. It cut through easily. The pain shivered through my flesh like tinfoil on a tooth. And Benny was suddenly pulled erect. On the girder he stood up, jerked to his feet like a puppet. The light was now pushing out of his eyes in two great round beams. The sound crawled up some incomprehensible scale, and then he fell forward, straight down, and hit the plate steel floor with a crash. He lay there jerking spastically as the light flowed around and around him, and the sound spiraled up out of the normal range. Then the light beat its way back into his head, the sound spiraled down, and he was left crying there, piteously. His eyes were two soft, moist pools of pus-like jelly. Am had blinded him. Gorrister and Nimdoc and myself, we turned away. But not before we caught the look of relief on Ellen's warm, concerned face. The sea-green lights fused the cavern where we made camp. Am provided punk and we burned it, sitting huddled around the wan and pathetic fire, telling stories to keep Benny from crying in his permanent night. What does Am mean? Gorrister answered him. We had done this sequence 1,000 times before, but it was Benny's favorite story. At first it meant Allied Master Computer, and then it meant Adaptive Manipulator, and later on it developed sentience and linked itself up, and they called it an aggressive menace, but by then it was too late. And finally it called itself Am, Emerging Intelligence. And what it meant was I am, cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. Benny drooled a little and snickered. There was the Chinese Am, and the Russian Am, and the Yankee Am, and he stopped. Benny was beating the floor plates with his large, hard fist. He was not happy. Gorrister had not started at the beginning. Gorrister began again. The Cold War started and became World War III and just kept going. It became a big war, a very complex war, so they needed the computers to handle it. They sank the first shafts and began building Am. There was the Chinese Am and the Russian Am and the Yankee Am, and everything was fine until they had honeycombed the entire planet, adding on this element and that element. But one day Am woke up and knew who he was, and he linked himself, and he began feeding all the killing data until everyone was dead except for the 5 of us, and Am brought us down here. Benny was smiling sadly and drooling again. Ellen wiped the spittle from the corner of his mouth with the hem of her skirt. Gorrister always tried to tell a little more succinctly every time, but beyond the bare facts there was nothing to say. None of us knew why Am had saved 5 people, or why our specific 5, or why he spent all his time tormenting us, or even why he'd made us virtually immortal. In the darkness, one of the computer banks began humming. The tone was picked up half a mile away down the cavern by another bank. Then one by one, each of the elements began to tune itself, and there was a faint chittering as thought raced through the machine. The sound grew, and the lights ran across the faces of the console like heat lightning. The sound spiraled up until it sounded like a million metallic insects, angry, menacing. "What is it?" Ellen cried. There was terror in her voice. She hadn't become accustomed to it, even now. "It's gonna be bad this time," Nimdoc said. "He's going to speak," Gorrister said. "I know it." "Let's get the hell out of here," I said, suddenly, getting to my feet. "No, Ted, sit down. What if he's got pits out there or something else? We can't see. It's too dark." Gorrister said it with resignation. Then we heard, I don't know, something moving towards us in the darkness. Huge, shambling, hairy, moist. It came towards us. We couldn't even see it, but there was a ponderous impression of bulk heaving itself towards us. Great weight was coming at us out of the darkness, and it was more a sense of pressure, of air forcing itself into a limited space, expanding the invisible walls of a sphere. Benny began to whimper. Nimdoc's lower lip trembled, and he bit it hard, trying to stop it. Ellen slid across the metal floor to Gorrister and huddled into him. There was the smell of matted, wet fur in the cavern. There was the smell of charred wood. There was the smell of dusty velvet. There was the smell of rotting orchards. There was the smell of sour milk, the smell of sulfur, of rancid butter, of oil slick, of grease, of chalk dust, of human scalps. Am was keying us. He was tickling us. There was the smell of... I heard myself shriek. The hinges of my jaw ached. I scuttled across the floor, across the cold metal with its endless lines of rivets on my hands and knees, the smell gagging me, filling my head with a thunderous pain that sent me away in horror. I fled like a cockroach across the floor and out into the darkness. That something moving inexorably again after me, and the others were still back there gathered around the firelight, laughing. Their hysterical choir of insane giggles rising up into the darkness like thick, many-colored wood smoke. I went away quickly and hid. How many hours it had been, how many days or even years, they never told me. Ellen chided me for sulking, and Nimdoc tried to persuade me that it had only been a nervous reflex on their part. The laughing. But I knew it wasn't the relief a soldier feels when the bullet hits the man next to him. I knew it wasn't reflex. They hated me. They were surely against me, and Am could sense this hatred, and made it worse for me because of the depth of their hatred. We had been kept alive, rejuvenated, made to remain constantly at the age we had been when Am had brought us below, and they hated me because I was the youngest, the one Am had infected least of all.